Hello and welcome to another edition of the Pastor's Heart. Hope everything's going with you. It's Wednesday and we are so excited to have you with us today. Hope everything's going okay. If not, hopefully what we say will make things a little bit better. Our guest this week is Pastor Levi Rozier of Harvest Builders Center in Warner Robins, and we're going to get into all the stuff that they have to offer you and a little later. But first, I want to remind you of our prayer line, 478-474-3986. You can also email us, prayer@wgnm.com. We believe in the power of prayer. I've heard too many stories. I've got too many examples of how God intervenes when His people pray. As a father, you don't, sometimes your kids want something or need something and you're not aware. And unless somebody makes you aware of the situation, you can't deal with anything. God's aware of the situation, but He wants you to ask. As a father, He wants good things for you. He doesn't want bad things for you. And He knows that when you call upon Him, He's got resources that we don't even know about. We can't even imagine. So prayer. I'm going to hit prayer until you just sick of me talking about it. Prayer request. Keep that number in your cell phone if you need it when you're at the hospital. I know that we get people in hospitals at all times of the day and night because I've been in the hospital and I've needed prayer. So just keep that number in your cell phone or whatever, and we'll make sure that we take this before the Lord. There's power and agreement when 2 or 3 are gathered. Doesn't matter if they're separated by a phone line. So just take that step of faith and call in that prayer request. And be clear when you leave your phone number for us to call you back, because we've had a few that several of us have listened to the phone number and we couldn't get it. So just be very, very clear when you leave your phone number so that we can don't just run right through it. Also, our website, again, wgnm.com. Lots of information there that you can get. We'll try to keep it updated. I'm not 100% great at that, but I'm trying. So give me some grace. Schedules, information about the station. You can also find information about our network. We're based out of Clearwater, Florida, with the network, but we have stations all across the country. I want to say the last count I had was about 13 stations across the country. Wow. So just understand that we've got that. If you may find yourself in another CTN city and want to get some good word while you're there in the hotel room or whatnot, and you'll be able to figure out if you're going to Nashville or Knoxville, the Gatlinburg area, we've got a station up there. If you're going to Pensacola or Tallahassee, we got a station there too. Wow. Got stations all over. So you can check that out by going to the CTN website, linked through our website. We're also streaming our signal around the globe over the internet. Also, just real quickly, want to remind you of my email address, gm@wgnm.com, and you can email me at any time, and I usually respond at the very least 24 hours. So I even look at it on vacation just to see if a viewer has emailed me, and I will email you back. All right, all my commercials out of the way. We're going to talk real briefly about Harvest Builders Center in Warner Robins. Awesome. Currently meeting at the Warner Robins Conference Center on North Davis Road. That's correct. And it's a relatively new church, relatively new plant. But tell us a little bit about kind of the overall feeling of the church and some of the people that are going there, what they've said, and kind of just give us a picture of Harvest Builders Center.
One Sunday morning I was in church, and my pastor was getting ready to teach, and he was talking about a guy putting a puzzle together. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how the young man was putting the puzzle together. The grandfather told him, put a puzzle together, and it's a puzzle of the world. And he said that the pastor was talking about how the young man put the puzzle together so fast of the world. And the grandfather said, son, how you put the world together so fast? Mm-hmm. And he said, well, Dad, all I did was I took and built the man first. And as I built the man who was in the center of the world first, the world came together. And that's our pitch. That's kind of the picture of what we try to do at Harvest Builders. We try to build people on purpose. I mean, when they come in our front door, we're excited to see them there. We appreciate people coming. And every every facet of our ministry right now, it's about building people. And I mean everything from the guy in the parking lot to the children's ministry. Just, you know, when you leave out of there, you're going to think, wow, I've been attacked by the builders, you know. But our goal is to just build people. And I've always been in charge about connecting with people to cite them and to equip them to be motivated and motivate people. So when you come to Harvest Builder, you're going to be stimulated now. I can tell you that right now.
That's
great.
great.
I'm a charged guy.
Well, we wanted you to, you know, understand that when you go there, you're going to get loved, you're going to get challenged, you're going to find a place to grow. Yeah. And you know, that's probably one of my biggest things. Don't find a church. Don't look for a church that's going to leave you alone. Yeah. You need a church that's going to bug you. Yeah. And as far as, not bug in a bad sense, but bug in that spur the scripture even says, spur one another on to good works.
Yes.
And, you know, you're going to get built. And because you don't want to, you know, I've left churches in different stages of my life and gone on to other churches, and God's moved me here and there. And, you know, you have occasions to go back, and even 10 years later, you see people that you knew then that are still dealing with the same stuff. There's been no growth whatsoever. That right there is one of the saddest things in the body of Christ, when you meet a brother or a sister who has had no growth over a period of time whatsoever. They're still fighting the same things that they fought back then. And building, you know, if you were to build a building and 1 week to the next it looked exactly the same, you'd say that builder's not doing their job. You know, if you come back 6 months and there's been no progress whatsoever, they're still looking at how to lay the foundation, somebody's not doing their job. Now, I know road construction seems that way sometimes, but when you're building a building, you want progress. You want progress. And we should want progress in our own lives, and we need to put ourselves where God leads us into churches that are going to build us. And as they build us, that builds a family, and then that builds. I tell you, you got to make sure that you're a place where you can get taught, a place where you can get fed. And I know his background. I know the church that he's coming out of, kind of coming out of Harvest Cathedral.
That's right.
And which is obviously, for full disclosure, my home church as well. So I got a little home cooking going on here. But, you know, I know where they're coming from. I know what's going on. And I would wholeheartedly recommend this church to you. And again, why do I always do that with every pastor I have in here? Because I don't bring a pastor on that I wouldn't wholeheartedly encourage you to go to the church. Now, we want to get into, we've got some information on the church real quick. I want to make sure that website's up again, Eric. HarvestBuildersCenter.com is probably the best way to get some information. You can also call that phone number and get some information about the times and different things that are available there, what there is to do, and that sort of thing. So please, please, please contact them. If you're looking for a church home or something we say this week resonates with you, please just act on it. Don't be afraid. You're going to get loved. You're going to get taught. There's a place to be, to grow, to be built. Harvest Builder Center.
I love it, Rob.
All right, we're going to get back into the Word. We've got lots to cover. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to tell you, go ahead and take it.
Oh, man, let me fly around. You know, yesterday we talked briefly about how the disciples in the boat, and they were, you know, God gave them direction, and they got in the boat, and the storm came, and how they, emotion got ahead of them, and they said, God, do you not care if we die? Kind of always been in that same situation. And we really talked about, does God care about me? And we know the answer is yes. And we found that if we don't get caught up in the moment, if we see ourselves through it, we're gonna be all right. You know, if we get past our emotion where we are right now. But there are times where even we can get past God caring about us, and then wonder, do God care about our situation? Period. You know, do God care about my marriage? Right. Do God care about my finances?
Talk about storm.
You know, those things begin to make you wonder, God, I know you care about me, but God, look at this, look at what's going on with my child. You know, some, you know, these things, it don't seem, I know you said if I pray, the mountains will move, because sometimes it don't seem like the mountains is moving fast enough in my life, and it begin to put pressure on me. And or sometimes, you know, we begin to compare ourselves sometimes against what others are doing, or what they have, and wonder, why am I not in that position? God, do you really care about us progressing? Do you really care about us getting more money in our pocket? Those are tangible things, but they do affect sometimes how we feel, how we think God feel about us. And I was researching some more scripture, and I pulled up Psalm 7:3. I wasn't looking for it. I just threw it at me, and it was talking about how when David was going through a struggle, he was on the run, and he started the first 8, 9, 10 scriptures off with talking about what others had. And saying, God, I just can't believe they got this, and you know, it seems like we just going through. We don't have much, and we running, and we love you, you care about us, you know. But then he came to his senses, like you said earlier, and said, you know, God, have we done this stuff in vain? Then he said, God, you know what? I was a fool to think that way. You've done all this stuff for us. You care about it. You do more than care about my situation. You told me I'm gonna be king one day. And yet I'm living in the moment again. And what he did, he changed his perspective. That's all he did. He got in the Word, and it changed his view on the situation, instead of just taking the situation at face value and realize God does care about what's going on, not just about him personally, but God cares about my marriage being stronger than what it is. God care about my wife being delivered from certain things. God care about my children being, living the life of integrity and being a Christian home. He does care about those things, but sometimes life hit us so hard that we can't get it, and it makes you wonder, does he care? And
sometimes we get paralyzed by our fear.
We do.
And it reminds me of the story. My brother and I, when we were younger, we were going through one of those horror houses at a county fair. And at the end of it, guy comes up and he's behind a cage, and he's got this, obviously, a chainsaw without a blade in it. But it's the motor's going, and he holds that up there. My brother was between me and the door. Oh my God. And we both froze for a second, but he froze longer than I did. And he wouldn't move. And my brother's a big guy like I am. He's actually bigger than I am now. And I finally had to just shove him out the door because it was just, he paralyzed by fear. And sometimes we get so caught in that moment that we're just like, oh,
we do.
And so
we do, brother.
He's looking at this guy. He's not going to get hurt, but there's a guy in a hockey mask with a chainsaw, and he got frightened. Well, until somebody pushed him, we got out of there. So it was just, that picture just flashed on me when we were talking about that. We see those circumstances, and we just we lock up. It's like those fainting goats. Sometimes Christians are like fainting goats. They just like, oh, and they.
See, and you talk about fear. We're going to get in 1 Peter here in a minute about 1 Peter 5 about God caring about us. But I remember when I started ministry. Forgive me, I'm a little procrastinator at times. I'm sometimes I like to see stuff before I get started, but God delivered me. He prayed for me. But I had a dream one day, and we all know I had a dream about some snakes. Well, we all, if you've been Christians long enough, know that snakes can be classified as the enemy. I'm not here to talk about dream interpretation, but I dreamed about a lot of snakes. And what happened? The snake came out. I cut his head off. Another snake came out, cut his head off. It started coming out so fast, I couldn't cut the heads off. But eventually, I calmed down. I began to cut the head off one by one. They cut the heads off. And so the next day, I was somewhere, and the lady talked to me. And she said, do you interpret dreams? No, I said, no, I'm not really into that. You can call my brother. He'd do that. I call my brother. And so I walked away. But I got home that afternoon, and I was in my bedroom, not thinking nothing about this dream at all now. And in my bedroom, I believe the Lord spoke to my heart. And he said, those snakes that you dreamed about last night was an example of fear. And I said, okay, He said, but the fear that you conquered was the fear within your own self. It was no outside fear. Mm-hmm. It was some inside eternal fears that I was struggling with that paralyzing me from pursuing some of the things God had called in my life or to get past. And when those situations comes up, or when you don't been in a position where you think you can't pay your next bill.
Right.
I mean, fear grab hope, man. And if you don't, and you begin to scoff, and you begin to get that moment, God, do you care about do you not see that they begin to cut my lights off? Do you not,
Yeah.
And those things begin to go in your mind, but God does care about our situation, but you hit the hit on nail. Fear grab hope to a lot of us, or most of us, and it almost take us out if we don't grab hope to our faith and know that God does care about me. He cares about my situation that I'm involved in. And every aspect of my life, God cares and loves me, Jeremiah, I think Jeremiah 31:3 says, God has loved me with an everlasting love. Now, to know that, I got to know that on the front side, that he loved me eternally. But if I don't know that on the front side, I will struggle walking through this path. If I don't know on the front side that he cares about me personally, if I don't know on the front side he cares about my situation, my job, my area that I'm in, I will struggle when those moments come, or those situations come, that come to take us out. And so that's why I want to really encourage folks today, man. This thing is deeper than just throwing it out there. God cares, and you got to know that before you walk out there. If not, he's going to take you out. He's going to take you out. And so that's why I want to encourage today. But I really want us to get in 1 Peter 5.
Okay.
And this is 1 Peter 5 probably is a scripture that most us that know God have been around now. But this is bigger than just Christian. This is about people. And just to hit a little synopsis on what was going on, they were struggling during this time. Christians they were suffering because of their faith at this time. And Peter was writing a letter to them trying to encourage their faith. And this is a strange book at times because sometimes Peter talk about suffering that's going to come. And a lot of times we as faith preachers don't like to talk about
it's all going to be okay.
Sunshine every day. But Peter actually says in Scripture that, you're going to suffer because of your faith.
Right.
Your thing's going to go through you. You're going to go through some stuff because of what's going on. But then in 1 Peter 5:7, he says, cast all your cares upon me because I care. He cares for you. Now, it's hard sometimes, Ken, to cast our care. We take those cares, we take this one in, and all my cares, and these things tend to wear us down. They internalize people, cancer, ulcers. We take all that stuff, internalize it, because we don't want to release that stuff. But Peter's come, he said, man, listen, guys, this thing, God cares for you.
Right. Well, I remember going to my grandmother's church or whatnot, or an older church. This tends to be a little bit in some of our older generations, where if somebody's been sick and you come up to that brother or sister, I've been so worried about you. And we take on these cares because we somehow equate worry with love and care. And when actually what needs to be happening, I've been praying for you is a good thing to say, and putting your name before God because I know what you're going through. But worrying and caring, it's like if I take it over, that means to me that says, God, I don't trust you enough for you to take it. And to me, it's a lack of faith. If I'm sitting there going, and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to take this and I'm going to take care of this care because you can't. And that's some serious stuff.
It is.
I don't think we realize what we're doing.
Oh man, we start taking the position. We're taking the position that God didn't want us to take. He's taking on stuff that only He can take on. Me, we men that know we should be good stewards of our stuff, and God put in our hands and grace us to handle stuff. But we're talking about something totally different here now. We're talking about stuff where we actually take possession of, and God didn't want us to have it. And we are saying, I got it. God, I'm going to do it without you, And I remember my wife and I, we were, I keep going back to it. I had never been in a position in my life where I was somewhere in another state, my wife going through a hard surgery, by myself out there with her, and I had to trust God. I'm talking about I had to. I had no family out there with us. My pastor was there, everybody was home, mom home. We caught us off guard to fly fly to Minnesota to do a transplant surgery for her pancreas. Being that moment over those 30 days, I'm talking, guys, it was easy for me to want to just grab hold and take care of myself. But I couldn't. I mean, I literally couldn't. And I had a brother of mine call me from church, and he said, Levi, I'm tell you something. He said, I said, man, I'm praying, I'm believing God. And he called me about the third or fourth day, and he told me this, and it relates back to what you just said earlier, beginning to show about praying for each other. He said, Levi, stop. We got this. God got this. Just take care of your wife. Go up to relax, read, go rest your dad. God got this. And when on that one phone call, kind of brought my mind back in perspective that God cared about our situation. He didn't just listen. We was doing something else, and the phone call came out of the blue. We had to buy a plane ticket, fly, so out of the blue. Now, if God arranged all that, had a provision for us to get out there, I mean, all this paid for, why all of a sudden I get in this situation, and the night of time for the cut, did the surgery, and that the fear comes and want to grab. And, and try to sabotage the faith I had but I had brothers back home calling and praying, saying, listen, man, relax. God got that, man. And we need that. And this is what Peter was saying. He said, cast all your cares upon him because he cares for you, to give that reassurance. Yes, you're going to suffer. Things going to happen. Some things going to happen that you had no control of.
Right.
Some things we did do stupid stuff and stupid stuff happened. But some called life hit us so hard, and because we live in a world that's sinful, stuff is just going to happen.
Exactly.
And Peter said, listen, cast all your cares on him because he's caring for you. But if you don't know that on the front side again, you will struggle through it.
Absolutely.
You're going to struggle through it.
It gets to, well, what it stripped you down to was you taking care of your wife.
God.
When you started, that allowed you now all of a sudden look at it from this perspective. What were you allowed to do, or what did that free you up? There's really nothing, you can't hold the scalpel.
That's true.
You can't perform the surgery.
That's true.
What you can do, once you turn that care over to God and to the surgeon, and pray over that surgeon. But now that allowed you, it freed you up.
It did.
To minister to your wife.
It did.
Honey, what do you need?
It did.
Honey, can I get you something?
It did. You hit it.
You want some water? You want some? What do you need?
It did.
What do take a nap? I got it.
Did.
Whatever.
It did.
And we get in situations like that. What it boils down to is our relationships with each other.
Yeah.
And there's none more precious earthly relationship than the one we have with our spouses.
Oh,
and when you cast that care upon him, again, that frees you up to be a husband.
I know.
You didn't need to be her surgeon.
And I didn't.
You didn't need to be her worrier or her
nurse,
God.
none of that stuff. I didn't.
You need to be her husband.
But at times we want to.
Yeah.
The innate, the part of us that want to grab it, and we really shouldn't be grabbing it. We really shouldn't. My hands shouldn't be on it. They're in it. That's trusting God. And I know that's a walk of faith. I know you talked about earlier on the earlier show about how we need to get in a place where the word is fed to us and how we should take that word with us and meditate on that word and let that word come a part of us and grow in us. And then when those challenges come in our lives, we can refer back to that word that was brought us to us and tell God about that word. God, you say in your word now, you cast my cares upon you. Now here you go, God.
Here you go.
Here you go, God.
The term that comes to my mind is delegation.
Okay.
As a manager of a station, I delegate. And when something happens in master control or whatnot, one of the hardest things for me to do is if we go off the air for some reason, I usually look at the clock and I make myself wait 5 minutes.
Okay.
Because I've got people that are handling it.
Okay.
I need to give them a chance to handle it. And then maybe after 5 minutes, I go in and say, okay, what's going on? What's our plan? Because if I run flying with my hair on fire in there and screaming, we got to get back on the air, that doesn't do anybody good because now everybody's locking up.
That's right.
But if I to further the analogy, I cast the care of that onto the people who are responsible for it.
That's it.
And I let them do what they're trained to do, what I trust them to do. It's the same way with stuff that we can't handle on the earthly thing. If I cast that care onto God, then I don't have to do it. Now he's delegated some stuff to me that I can do. Believe on him, trust him. In your situation, be a husband, or in different things. We had to have surgery with Tripp when he was 18 days old, and I tell you, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was sign that piece of paper, giving them permission to operate on my son, and realizing that they always put in that hospitalese, any possible consequence of surgery is death, and you're going, he's only 18 days old, people. And that was one of the hardest things to watch them wheel him down that hallway. Oh, yeah. But you have to cast that care, and because I couldn't do the surgery. No. I mean, he was better off if I didn't. No. I can't even play that old game Operation, So it's one of those things where we just got to let go and let God do it, and then that frees us up to do what He's called us to do.
It is, and it's hard. That's one of the hardest things, not as a Christian to do, as a person. I take Christian out of it. As a person, to just let go stuff, And as people listen to us today about, and whether the audience is a Christian audience or those who don't know God, let go and let God. Let go of that and let God grab hold with that situation, because things are changing, things are happening. And I was telling you, how my family went through a situation where our emotion was placed in a position that had never been before. People are getting put in positions and places that they have never been before in their life, financially, mentally, emotionally, and this is the time you're going to have to cast your cares upon to God. Absolutely. You're going to have to, or you will not survive this storm.
Absolutely. Well, one of the ways you can cast your care is to share prayer requests with others. That's one of the neat things that God's given us. Don't forget that prayer request line that we have open to you. We're running out of time for today, but I want to remind you that prayer request is one of the ways that God's given us to cast the care. When we share these burdens with others, and others are praying with you and for you, that releases you and it frees you up. So please, 474-3986, call that number and somebody will pray for you. If you leave a number, a callback number, we'll pray with you. We hope you join us for another edition of The Pastor's Heart tomorrow.